And we've got about 5 or 6, I don't know how many, ARs, like an automatic rifle. And he had gotten, I don't know how many magazines. He took it where Megan and I were standing. We showed him where we were standing. And he went there, right there at the side of the deck, and he covered that whole entire area, the woods. He was shooting magazines off, and I could hear him. He'd finish one, and he'd put another magazine in. He would finish. I think he emptied 9 magazines, so that's a lot. If I got that right, that's a lot of shooting. Well, I had not heard quite yet, and I had been trying to listen to things on the internet and, try to figure out what's true, what's not, what's believable, and so forth. And I didn't know that if you injured one at that time, I did not know that they get bit. I would have never asked my husband to do that or anything, which I didn't really ask him to do it, but I would have never wanted him to do that if I had known that if you hurt one, that they get furious. So apparently he didn't hurt anybody. So because they just kept on. That didn't seem to slow it. That slowed them down a little. Not a great, not a lot. And the only time, let's see. Yeah, they just kept on. Seemed like they just kept doing what they were doing, and everything just kept on going. And at this time, I took and covered my front door. I was taping up windows by this time. This is how scared I was. After seeing that, I had my front door taped up. I had my back door taped, both back doors. I had them taped up to where you couldn't even see in a crack. I had black garbage bags cut out, and I taped up over my kitchen sink. I had everything that I could. We would tiptoe at night. I mean, it had gotten bad, and I don't remember exactly what night or what had happened. It seemed like we were sitting out on the front porch, and we were hearing stuff to the point that we were scared and went inside. But we had went back. My daughter's. She moved out of her bedroom and moved in. I had fixed the nursery up, and she had moved into that room. There's 3 bedrooms on that end of the house, and then our bedroom's on the other end of the house. But those 3 bedrooms are on the end that's toward that grass line. And that night we went back there to one of those bedrooms, and we cracked a window in the bathroom back there. And that way we could hear outside and so forth, but we could smoke and so forth and back out the window if we needed to. Well, we were sitting in there listening to some stuff on the radio, and the dog was back there with us, and all of a sudden we heard like a growl that come from underneath the house, and it almost sounded like thunder. I mean, it was just because it was so close and up under us. And and a few minutes before this, we had heard something under the house moving, and I thought my husband had gotten up and walked down the hallway and used that bathroom in the hall. That's what I thought. But I checked, and he didn't, so he just kind of wrote it off. But when we heard that growl, and we sat there for, 3 seconds and just stared at each other, and I mean, we couldn't believe it. It was like something was under the house. And I called Nate and told him, and he said, I just don't think that could happen, And I said, Nate, our crawl space is huge, and the door that goes under our house is off right now, and I've been telling my husband to repair it forever, which is repaired now. But the door was completely off, so there was a big, probably 4 foot by 3 foot hole up under our house. And it's right there up under that deck where he did all the shooting. Well, after that growl, the growl and stuff, the dog, which I thought, I was trying to write that off as, just something else, I was trying to just write it off as anything but a growl. But after that, my daughter, when it happened, the dog goes to the vent, and my daughter's dog is so smart. She goes to the vent and starts cawing at it, like there's something in there. She was telling us there's something in there, and it scared me to death. Now my other dog, he's the male, and he was in the nursery laying down at the time. Well, he comes in there. He goes right to the vent too and starts sniffing because he sniffs them. She will sniff them too. It's like they can smell them, but they'll throw their nose up in the air. And as soon as they come out, my dogs, as soon as they come out on the front porch, they throw their noses up in the air. And she'll do it more now, but he's usually the one that's been the one that throws his nose up in the air. And she'll look. It's like she looks and points where they're at. But they can smell them, and it's like they know to go off the porch or not. But he come in there, and sure enough, first thing he did was start smelling up the vent. So we were kind of really scared about that, but then we realized that it couldn't get in the house from up under there, or we hoped it can't. And also we just kind of let that go. We had to keep our sanity and to not be so afraid, because I had started getting to where I was terrified to even walk through the house at night. And my daughter, ever since the night we saw that, she moved into my room. She wouldn't even sleep back there. She had gotten to where she was so scared that we were all staying in my room. And my poor husband, I've got a king-size bed and a recliner in there. And so I was in the recliner, and she'd have to get in the king-size bed with the baby because, she'd have to put him in there between her and my husband. So we were all piled in there together. And just scared to death, And I'm trying to think, it probably within this time was when when all this started, we had went to Gulf Shores and took a vacation. And this is right when we were all staying in the bedroom. It was right after we saw it and everything.
July?
We went back to the Gulf, yeah. July. And we went, April, May, June, July. No, it wasn't July. It was July because it was our anniversary, okay. The 1st of July. Well, we went to the Gulf for a week this time, didn't we? 9 days? No, that was first time.
9 days.
7 days. And I'm trying to think, Nate and Kathy, I'd asked Nate's wife, Kathy, to feed the dogs, and we were going to leave them inside. Because they had gotten to the point, at this time, when we went to the Gulf, the dogs had gotten to where they wouldn't even hardly go off the porch to use the bathroom, and this had been going on for a while. And the dogs seemed to be terrified of whatever it was. So if one of them went, my rowdy dog, he would go off and use the bathroom only if Dixie would go first. It was like he wouldn't go without her, and vice versa. They just wanted to be together. They felt safer that way. And this is when they would go, it was so bad at this point. My sidewalk is right at the end of the steps. They were either using the bathroom on the sidewalk or in the shrubs. Yeah. So you can imagine how bad this was. And during the day, they had gotten to where they would get 10 foot away from the sidewalk if and that's on a good day where they didn't smell anything, and they were together. But Kathy, I'd asked Kathy.
Now they have started to venture back out.
Yes, they've just now. But Kathy had agreed to come over and take care of the house and take care of the dogs, and also we went. We had already booked this vacation and all, and they come up here and they had some
Kathy, when you would come up
crazy
here in
sprouting
the
too.
afternoon, because you come up here probably 2 times a day, one in the mornings, one in the afternoon. And when she would come over here, she'd be in the truck and she'd hear them growling at her. Because I guess they knew that we were away.
Yeah, she couldn't come up here by herself, or
and that she wasn't. They thought she was an intruder. I don't know. Like I said, we have a weird relationship with our squatches. We don't want nobody to hurt our squatches.
Our Sasquatch, or we don't really want anybody to go try to rouse them up. because we live here. We live here, and they leave.
We don't bother them, and they don't bother us, really.
It
took a while to establish this relationship.
Yeah, this has been.
At first, they wanted to mess with us. They wanted, come and wake me up in the middle of the night. But now they really have backed off. Every now and then, like the other night, I seen one over here to the left of the trailer, and it was a juvenile. You could tell it was a smaller one, and they were just curious. He was just curious. And heck, when I put the flashlight on him, the spotlight, he was like, uh-oh, his eyes got so big. He's like, I've been spotted. And he goes to the left, and then he turns back. He moves his whole body. Moves his whole body to the left, which would be his right, my left. Turns and looks at me again, and his eyes got even bigger. He's like, uh-oh, ruh-roh.
That's why I didn't think it was a juvenile.
And he turns his whole body and looks at me again, and then kind of goes on all fours, I think, and slouches back off into the woods about 10 foot to the left, and then about 15 foot back, and I could still see his eyes shining through the woods.
Yeah, well, he would turn around. But up until the time we left, though, to go to Gulf Shores, it was still, they were everywhere.
They were very active.
They were very active. And the night that we were packing to go, we were leaving that morning about, which we ended up, we were supposed to leave about 3 or 4, but we didn't leave till about 9 or 10, I guess. It was about 9. But that night, it was about, I don't know what time, we were up all night packing and getting stuff ready and sitting out on the porch.
We wait till last minute to do anything.
Anyway, we were out, since we were up, we, of course, had the spotlight going, and she did. And
see, before we come outside, I always shine the light at night just to make sure there's not one in the yard.
Yeah.
Especially since Mom got charged that one time. So we always try to be on the safe side.
We check our perimeter. It's like if there was a bear.
Can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
We try to treat it like, we've got a yard full of bears.
Yeah, you definitely want to do that and be careful. So what I've heard so far is you've done all the right things, to keep them, establish your territory and their territory. So that's very good.
Yeah. The night we were getting ready and packing and all, Megan she's shining the light out there, and I was still working. I was trying to get stuff ready and doing clothes and so forth, and she hollers, "Mom, I see eyeballs over here." And I said, "Well, that's awfully close. Are you sure?" So I have to get over there and look too. But before I even get over there to look, she said, "Oh, there's another eyeball." And there's another, and she's like, "There's 3 sets of eyeballs." I said, "No way." And sure enough, and they were right there at the same little hurdle of trees. And it was like they were crouched up around each other. You could tell. And one was looking out off one side of the set of trees. It was like 3 trees together, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And one was looking off the other side, and then it looked like one was crouched down, peeking around. And you could see one eyeball, and then occasionally you would see their other eyeball come if they got, brave enough to put their eyeballs or their both eyes out. But it was like one eyeball and a half eyeball.
We've seen so many different sets of eyeballs, and and that one time, I seen it to the right of the trailer, and the hair was covering his eyes. So I think it's almost like in that one time when we were on the porch, that was a big set of bright, shining red eyes. And then over here to the left of the trailer, that night that it came behind me when I was just cleaning my car out, that was more of a set of beady eyeballs. Like they were not as bright and round and shining. So that's kind of odd, that we see different. I don't know if it's because different times of the night, different lights make it shine differently,
That could
be. If one of them's bigger than the other, or something like that, that could be the case. But anyway, that night when we saw the 3, I went.
They were more of a beady set of eyeballs.
They were more beady.
They weren't the big, bright, round, shining.
It almost, what we said, my daughter said, which it was just us here, she said, it's 3 juveniles. And I agree. After I saw them, I was like, "Oh, it's just 3 little ones. Just, let's go finish packing and just go home."
Dad, he just happened to get up, I guess, to use the restroom, and we told Dad, there was 3 of them out here, And so he's going to get the gun, and I said, no.
Yeah, we stopped him.
No, don't you shoot those babies. No, absolutely not.
And we told her, but she doesn't, you know, I've told her they're not nice and sweet, and we know, she knows all this, but still, you know, we got to learn to respect them because they've got to live somewhere, and as long as they don't bother us, I'm okay. When they start bothering us, I've got problems. And they were, at this point, they were bothering us, but they hadn't in probably a little while.
They just backed off.
Yeah, and I had already heard all this. Is when I had heard all of this about if you harm them. I knew how that would go down.
Mm-hmm.
So at this time as well, we had stopped hearing them stomping through the woods after we had shot a few times up in the air. It got to where it didn't faze them. But after we did, you know, after we was up with that automatic weapon, that one good time.
Oh, we didn't tell him.
Stopped them.
The last time that when they started backing off.
That night seemed to be
when they growled at it. When they growled at us.
No, that night we seen the Alpha. My daddy went out there and emptied about 3 30-round clips out of his AR.
Well, I didn't seem to think that they backed off very much after that. When they backed off. When they backed off a lot is my daughter and I were sitting out on the front porch, and we heard a growl out by the grass line.
Yeah, when we're on the front porch, the grass line that I was talking about, that's got that 5.5-foot grass.
Yep.
That's to the right of the house, and that's in that old horse pasture we have. And see, it's not a pasture. I'm saying a pasture. It's not a pasture. It's wood, and there used to be really thick brush through there, and now the brush is thinner because the horses have been out there for, you know, we had horses for 3 or 4 years, and now it's just it's kind of growed up now with briars and stuff like that, but nowhere near like it is the woods surrounding the area where the horses weren't. That's a lot thicker of an area.
But what had happened, I was sitting on the rocking chair at the end of the porch. She was sitting on the one toward the door. Well, I heard a growl, and I said, "Did you hear that?" And about that time, it growled again. And when I said, "Did you hear?" Yeah, it was way deeper, and
I cannot mimic it.
Well, there's no way we could mimic that growl. But when I turned to ask Megan, "Did you hear that?" You know how when you're older, I'm almost 50, so I don't hear and see well.
I heard that growl inside the bathroom.
Yeah,
at the vent.
So I've got this, I always ask, "Did you hear that?" You know, it's gotten to where I say it way too often, but I said, "Did you hear that?" And I turned to look at my daughter, and she was diving at the door, and I was right behind her.
It was way too close for comfort.
Yeah, and now my husband shot that night. He unloaded the AR at the end of the porch out there, and that was twice. And that, to me, that was when they really backed off. And when they really backed off, I mean, the footsteps and stuff that we would hear, and the breaking of limbs.
And the dogs started going back out in the yard, using the bathroom.
Eventually, that was slow. That was a slow process, but they backed off so much to where we started coming out and being able to sit on the front porch with ease. And we had actually started doing that. We thought they had backed off. They had backed off a little bit, and we had actually started doing that a little bit. And that's when they growled at us.
Mm-hmm.
And after my husband shot that night, it was almost like they got the hint. You know, it was like you back off, and this is our territory, and that's yours. Just back up and go on, and you stay to yourself, and we'll respect your territory if you'll respect ours, but this is ours. And I think that they got the picture because they backed off to the point the dogs are able to start playing again. And see, the dogs were playing that night that they growled at us.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing.
And also,
we had just got back from the goal.
Time that we've seen eyeballs like we did was the other night when I seen that set of eyeballs. And when I seen him, he was like, oh, I'm in trouble. I'm going to get the AR shot at me again. But, of course, we're not going to do that unless they pose a threat. We're not going to kill one.
Like growling or something like that, as long as they don't try to scare us, because they had already started getting to where...
coming up behind me, while I was out there back in my car, and that's dangerous. This is too close for comfort. you know, what if I was coming in one night and I had the baby, and you know, so we just had to get them to do drastic measures then and get them to back off.
And I think the AR did that. Now, it had gotten to where and while all of this was going on, before, you know, they backed off.
When it first started happening, right after the baby had been born, like around, you know, end of March, beginning of April, Mom has a 38 special. And I'll let her go ahead and finish telling you about that.
Well, I would just fire every time that they would pose a threat and they would be out there walking and do something or get too close. I would fire my gun off into the air.
I thought it was a person at this time. We didn't know.
And at one time when we still thought it was a person, before she even drew that picture and sent it by Kathy for Nate to see, we walked down into the woods one night. Well, I had my gun. She had the light. Just me and her. Because we thought there was somebody back there. A person. We had thought it was a person for a good while.
Trying to case our house out and then rob us or something.
But, you know, after we had found out everything and all, you know, I think they realized that we knew. And I mean, because
they're very intelligent animals.
Yeah, sure, and I believe you were standing your ground.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that they realized that...
hey, we might need to back up all these people. They know what they're doing.
Well, they had nearly taken over. They had our entire house surrounded, and there's woods in the backyard, which we have a yard, and then it runs into woods, kind of like the grass line starts here. It kind of runs all the way around. They were using that whole area, and across the road to the left of the trailer, they were using those woods. They were coming across the road. Me and her even found footprints where they were crossing. They were using the woods to the other side of the house to go all the way back, and they would have to come through our yard to go to the other woods. And then that was in the back of our yard, and then they could come around behind the shed and go to the other side where they stayed a lot. But they had gotten to where they were going in the backyard. That goes up and meets.
The shed, that's like the barn, because there's a shed and there's like an old barn, like two little horse stalls attached to that.
And they would hide around behind it.
It's just like a lean-to area that we use to make
it's more like a detached garage. It's about a three or four stall garage that we never have finished. 3 stalls.
Yeah, it's kind of like a lean-to with a little 2 stalls built off the side of it.
Yeah, when we had our horses out behind there at one time. But at one point in time, in the backyard, my backyard goes and meets my mom and dad. My backyard, it will go up and meet the back of my mom and dad's apartment. They have an apartment with a garage built on the side of it, and then on the other side is their house. They have a big house. Which, oh no, I didn't want to get too close into that. But anyway, the long story short, yes, and they would go up to the back up through those woods. It would run into the back of my mom and dad's apartment, and my mother,
Granny can even hear them.
She was hearing them out there.
Because she wasn't getting to where she wouldn't let Cash play out there close to the woods.
Which I told her, I warned her and told her what was going on. But my mother,
they like kids.
What had happened, I had noticed that they were going up closer to my mom and dad, and I told my mother. And I'll take it this way. I was going to tell my mother. I didn't want to scare her, but I wanted to tell her. And so when I called her and got her on the phone, I was telling her, I started talking a little bit about it, but I didn't start telling her about them being up behind their apartment. And she said, oh, I knew that they've been coming out here. And I said, Mother, how do you know? She said, I smelt them out behind the apartment.
And I put scraps out.
I thought, she smelt them. How does she know that they smell?
Got lots of cats up there, and of course the possums and the coons and the squirrels, and she feeds them.
She's been putting out food forever. I mean, a lot of food.
You know how the older community, that's what they do, scraps.
Yes, and they throw the scraps out, and I mean like a bucket of scraps. My mother would put out a lot of food, and she would laugh because she'd say she would be feeding her possums and her coons, and they even had a pet snake that would come up, and all these animals were eating her scraps. And I told her not long ago, I said, you're going to have to stop putting out those scraps. And she said, why? I said, because, Mother, you're feeding them. And she said, well, they've got to eat somewhere. I said, Mother, you do not understand what we're going through. I said, look, you're going to have to stop. It's because I said, one day, I said, if they're eating those scraps, I said, one day they're going to come knock on your back door and insist you put scraps down. I was trying to get her attention. Tim Mom's had a stroke, and so she doesn't get around like she used to. She gets around pretty good, though. But I couldn't believe that she come out with that she smelled them back behind there, and because Mom didn't know that you could smell them. And she knew what they smelled like, which really shocked me. And she knew what they smelled like, not from hearing it anywhere, but from literally smelling them herself from coming up behind the apartment. So they had been making a lot of racket out there, but our backyard, I'll put it this way, our backyard in the woods goes straight up to the back of their apartment. So the activity I was hearing a lot of out there was between my backyard and their apartment, and so they were staying out there a lot because we were staying in the front yard. Apparently they wanted to move and start making more noise out in the back, in the woods out there.
It's almost like a horseshoe, I guess you'd say, that goes around the back of our house, the side of the house where my window is, and then the front yard. It's like a horseshoe of wood. And in the middle of the horseshoe, that's where the horse pasture is.
And when we get off the phone, I can tell you our address, and you can Google Earth it. I think
Google Maps.
Or Google Maps.
Yeah,
and you can see it.
Yeah, Google Earth. That's what it is. You're right.
Yeah.
And do like a aerial view of it, and just kind of get
which I don't think
a
it
good
shows.
view of it.
It doesn't show it very well, but it
shows a
good.
good aerial view, and you can kind of get
But pretty much that's it. I don't think that there's everything. I think we have experienced about everything that we can, except for them walking out in the yard and standing here and staring at us. They have stayed, what do you call it, hidden or stealthy.
Mm-hmm.
They have pretty much.
We found them out, and we figured out what it was, and we were hearing them straight into the woods like they just did not care. That has really, really stopped. I mean, every now and then you'll hear, but not like it was. They started getting stealthier. They started watching what they were doing because, see, they wanted to observe us. They liked watching us, especially me with the baby.
Especially when the baby was born. That was, it was like when she would come out on the porch with the baby, it was everything. It was like you could hear a pin drop. It was like every eye was on her, and you could feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's my Mom. I said, look, Mom, we've got to keep locking the doors, make sure all doors are locked, all windows are locked, we got to make sure when you go outside to smoke in the morning, sometimes you get lazy and just, walk inside and not close the door.
Yeah, I think
and
the door.
I told her, I said, you've got to shut and lock that door. I've got a feeling like somebody is watching it.
That's exactly right. Keep those doors closed and locked.
And what is so strange to me is how you can literally feel if they're here or not. It's almost like you can feel if you're being watched or not.
Mm-hmm.
But now, since they backed off, it's almost like there's just one here all the time. It's like they're here day and night. And it's like they're across.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like we've got one watching us all the time.
I know that when I come out here, I'm usually the one with the spotlight, doing the perimeter check, and I let Mom handle everything.
I'm talking about it all day, too.
I can take a flashlight and just about pick one out of the woods. It's like
Yeah, that's true.
It's like I know where they're at.
Yeah.
I know if one's out here or not, and that's just the crazy thing. That's the craziest thing.
Yeah, she can be. Don't take her long either. She can spot. And that eyeball she found the other night, that set of eyeballs they were pretty big.
Huge and bright. Oh my gosh, so bright. And
go ahead.
Well, I was just today. I'm planning on keeping a close watch on what's going on there through Nate, and monitor things as they progress. And if you guys need help, I can definitely give you some advice that will keep them away. But you're doing a good job so far with everything.
Thank you.
I tried to explain.
I was actually going to tell you something when you mentioned Nate. Nate was over here the other night, and we've heard all kinds of different crazy vocalizations. But this one was the wildest of all.
Yes, it was.
Nate was out here to the right of the trailer. There's a gate to the right of the trailer where that horse pasture used to be. See, there's no fence or anything now. It's just open land. And Nate was down there to the right, probably 50, 100 yards to the right of the trailer off in there. and there's a trail about 15 yards from the edge of the trailer that goes all the way back into the woods over there to the adjacent property over here, way behind the trailer, a good ways away. But along that trail is all I can guess. Nate was over here kind of doing some wood knocks, and I was really kind of we were kind of getting upset. We were like, Nate, don't do that. It'll call them in. We cannot do that. We got we've got them off of us now. Let's not start it back up and get them riled up.
Right.
So he stopped that. But when he was doing that, it was like I thought when I heard it, it was like a trill, like a high pitch, not a high pitch, but it was a higher pitch,
almost,
like a
yeah, like that, almost like a.
But you could tell
an
it's coming from like the throat, not from like the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm doing that
It
with
was
my
different.
tongue.
She's trying to do it, but it's nothing like that.
It's nothing like that. It's like a. And the way it sounded to me, I said, that sounds like a Sasquatch doing a distress call. Like a juvenile female Sasquatch doing like a distress call saying that she's being surrounded or that she feels uncomfortable and is calling for help.
Mm-hmm. Could very well be.
It's crazy how you can almost understand what they're saying.
Yeah, it is sometimes. Well, my daughter she's more in tune, and you know, me and her both are pretty good about stuff, but
and intuitive about things,
Yeah.
like the being watched and stuff like that.
But I have to explain to people, it's not like something you can come out here and just sit on the front porch and all of a sudden witness everything. This is a period of months.
Of 6 months.
Of months
that we've
and
been
months that
doing
we've
this.
been on the porch. I can't tell you how many numbers of nights that we stayed up and watched the sun come up, especially right after the baby was born, because he was up a lot. And we had this going on, which had us riled up to where we couldn't sleep anyway. And we would sit here on the front porch all night long trying to figure out who was watching us and who was in our woods, who's walking, and who is this? And we were up, and I called it. We
sounds were here.
joking around. We would call it hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Because we felt like we were hunting all night
We were
long.
dedicated to what we were doing.
We were
wanted
very-
to know who was this surrounding our property. What were they doing? Why were they here?
And we have hours and hours and days and invested in it, you know.
Mhm. And
Right.
time.
When you put all that in, you get to know their patterns. You get to
Mhm.
know exactly when they come out. You know their sounds. You know
Almost their personality.
almost their personality. I mean, seriously.
Which
that's
area of the
pretty much
woods
it.
they like to observe us from.
Yep, everything.
You can feel them watching you because they want to know. They're curious.
And they like at the beginning they like to throw stuff at us. They'd sit us on the porch and they just sit and throw stuff at us, and we just wrote it off as a squirrel being up in the tree. And then Megan got to saying, "There's not any squirrels up in our tree," you know. And eventually we knew that, and this was before we had ever heard that about anything about a Sasquatch throwing anything at you. This is before this. And when Kathy come over, they're moving over there. When Kathy come over, we were telling her something has been throwing stuff at us. We just laughed it off. We had no idea, and we didn't want nobody to think we were crazy. And so we told Kathy, because she's a good friend. She would never, make fun or whatever and think we were crazy, because she's just a good person and a good friend. And when we told her that, apparently she knew that Sasquatches throw stuff at you. We didn't. She didn't tell us right then. She went home and told Nate.
Right.
And then, Nate wanted us to listen to a podcast. So when we were sitting and listening to this podcast, and it was everything we were going through.
Mm-hmm.
It was growing stuff. It was everything. And me and her was just sitting there, and our eyes was so big, and we were just staring at each other like, oh, my gosh, wow.
Right.
This is exactly what's been happening to us. Exactly. Something's throwing stuff at us. All this weird stuff was happening to other people. And then we listened to this show about these people that would literally go into the woods and camp out around the Sasquatch.
With audio and stuff like that.
Yeah, and one of them had thrown a rock at a girl, and it broke her collarbone, and I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what we were listening to. I don't know what it was exactly, but it sounded true to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that when they threw the rock and it hurt her, that one of them went like, oh no,
I didn't mean to hit her.
I didn't mean to hurt her, and that meant in their
it upset him.
Yeah, it upset him, but it meant in their culture or whatever.
This was the guy's theory on it, that whenever someone hurts one of their own, that it means war.
It means war, yeah. And that
he knew that he had hurt a female human, and he thought, oh gosh, I've started war, because see, they were friends. These guys would go out there and camp. It was called the Land Between the Lakes, the LBL. I don't know where that is or what that is.
Yeah, we don't even know what that is. And he would go out there
and camp, and they had done this for probably a year or longer. And they usually would bring food and treats for them.
But
they forgot to bring treats.
Oh,
and it upset them.
But we were learning, not to get into their story, but we were learning things that they would do from the things that they were telling. And
from other people's encounters.
Yeah, from other people's encounters, exactly.
Stories. And it was just really cool to sit there and be like, wow, we are not crazy.
Yeah.
No, these details repeat, from case to case. I've heard thousands of them, and believe me, you're not alone. I am going to need to run, but I'm going to have Nate give you my contact info, email, and phone number, and keep in touch and let me know what's going on there.
Yes,
okay.
Of course.
Well, we're tickled to death that they backed off right now, and that we pretty much just want to have our them respect our territory, and we'll respect theirs, and that's all. As long as we've got that.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah.
Take the baby inside. It's very nice talking to you.
Yeah, it was nice talking. Well, I think most of the time we just talked and you listened, but.
Well, I certainly appreciate you telling me what's been going on there, and I think it's important to let people know that you're not alone. The things that are happening do repeat. This is we're talking about a flesh and blood creature, so what happens in one place in one circumstance is repeated in many cases.
Yeah, that's true. And, the more we thought about it, Megan went back. Even after we started all this, we realized what was going on. We had somebody say, they've probably been there for years and you just didn't realize it. We started thinking about it, which I don't know why that they started getting to where they weren't as afraid. I don't know. It's probably because of the baby. Is all I can figure. Mm-hmm. But when my daughter was little, she used to complain all the time about somebody was tapping on her window.
Mm-hmm.
And we remembered that come out. And, it was just little things. And a lot of times I would feel like somebody was watching us. But I did want to tell you this before I let you go. Here this past week, I've had, and I've never seen this before, but I've had 2 encounters with a deer coming right up to the same place both times, to the grass line right here at the yard, and they act like they're not afraid of us. They'll come out up nearly to the yard. Right, that grass line is right here at the yard.
Like they're running.
Well, these things hunt deer, so the deer will probably come closer to people for protection.
Yes, you're so right. Oh, my God, you're so right.
The first thing I thought when I saw it, I thought, they act like they're trying to get away. It acts like it's trying to get away from something.
Yeah, no, I've heard this quite a few times.
Really? That they are trying to get away from them, so they come up to people's yard?
People's yard.
I'll give an example. There was a guy back in 1988 who I interviewed. He was charged by one in the middle of the afternoon in an area. They heard it screaming coming up the ridge. His friend took off running to the car. He was thinking it was a bear, didn't want to encounter a bear, but obviously a bear isn't screaming like that. But they did catch a glimpse of it a ways off, and it was a dark, hairy thing. They thought he thought it was a bear. So anyway, shortly before the creature appeared out of the tree line, a deer come running out of the same spot, ran right up to me, said I could have reached out and touched the deer. It acted like I wasn't there. And then heard one last scream. The deer bolted, and this thing came out, saw him, and made a dead run at him. And he said, I think I must have been in shock because I just stood there. The creature ran up to within about 10 feet of him, stopped, and they stood there and stared at each other a few moments. Then it kind of turned and walked off into the timber. So just one example of, where deer will kind of run towards humans in a case like that. Almost out of, like it was trying to, maybe thought it was being protected or maybe just, out of their territory.
Well, my husband's a big deer hunter, and he's been trying to get them to come up into the woods right here next to our house for years, and he's put out corn. He puts out corn for them.
We don't really hunt around the house. We just like
we just want the deer to come up, so it'd be something pretty, just come walk around in the yard. That'd be great. So he's been putting corn out for a long time. It's like hard kernels of corn, I guess. Would that be a food source for them, for
Sure.
the Sasquatch?
They'll eat just about anything.
Well, somebody had give him these big, huge barrels. They're like plastic barrels. They look like they're just big barrels. And they're probably, how big are those things? They're they're about 4 foot high, and I couldn't put my arms around one.
Oh, big drum.
Big drum.
Probably 55-gallon drum, more than likely.
He probably had 4 or 5 of them out here in the shed that he would use that corn to put out. And it's right here in the shed, and see, they stayed at the shed. You could go around the back, and there would be one making movement and sounds and noise around there at the shed nearly all the time at night.
Sure, they're coming in for an easy meal.
Yeah, probably so. But my husband, when I told him about the deer the other night, the dog run at it, kind of come out and scared it off, and it run across the road behind the trailer. And then the next time one come up, it wasn't scared, and it just kind of just stood around, and the dog was on the front porch and didn't chase it, and it just kind of, walked around. And I hollered at my husband, and he was so excited, when come back again, and he said, I'll have to put some more corn out. He still doesn't believe it. He doesn't think it's a Sasquatch. He doesn't think there's any such thing. He thinks it's bears, and that she saw a bear, and that was bears walking around out here the whole time. And I'm thinking, we set up night after night and never saw a bear. The bear, what was walking around, never came out into the yard, and walked around like a bear would. Never bought our trash. Nothing that a bear would do has this thing done or these things done. So I don't know. But anyway, he has his own view until he sees one. I don't think he will ever believe that. But that's to every person their own opinion, and
until he sees one.
Yes, until he sees one, exactly. And I hope that he doesn't, in a way, because, I hope he sees one to where it won't be to where it would hurt him, but I'm afraid that if he sees one, I don't think he would do it, but he says, well, if I was to ever see anything like that, he said he thinks he would tackle it and try to run it off, and I'm thinking, me and my daughter's both sitting there just staring at him like, yeah, right. I hope you change your mind when you see this.
Especially that big one we've seen out back.
Yeah, that was scary. But we don't want to keep you. I don't want to keep you. I know you've got things to do and all, but we appreciate you and anything you can help us with. Or
absolutely. And like I said, I'll have Nate give you my contact info and keep in touch with me, and I'll help you out any way I can.
Great. And Nate's been wonderful. He was the only thing that we had. The only thing, anybody that we could call him anytime, night or day, and he was there for us. If we ever called him with an emergency, he was here in minutes.
He was here.
And to have somebody like that, and my husband, he loves us, of course, and he believes that we saw something, but not to believe that there was that much of a threat or danger at that time.
Right.
And Nathan did. Nathan knew what the danger we were in, and so he would tell us what to do, or
He would give us all kinds of shots. It was just so great to have him there for us.
I don't know. what we
I
would
don't
have
know
done.
what we would have done. I mean, we would have probably been in a worse situation and, you know, be in a really, really bad place if it hadn't been for Nate.
And Kathy, she's amazing. She would come sit on the porch with us at night and sit with us a lot. And that meant a lot to have somebody else. You know, strength is in numbers, and we wouldn't sit out here. We would when she was here. So that was great to have friends and neighbors like that to help us.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah. So anytime though that you can offer any advice for us or anything, you know,
Absolutely.
there for a while we wanted to put up motion cameras outside to see if they were coming through the yard at night.
I would suggest doing that. Yes.
Well, we don't have Wi-Fi, and where we live, we have Verizon, and our Verizon carries a mobile hotspot, which we have unlimited text and data and mobile hotspot. So we can turn mobile hotspot on, but you have to have mobile hotspot on and your phone plugged up to a charger because it makes your phone gets hot, and that's just to work a computer or a laptop or anything that needs Wi-Fi.
Well,
And it's not a real Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you can get just the regular motion sensors though, and hook them up, and that'll keep them at bay. Also, the motion sensor lights.
Oh yeah, the motion sensor lights. Well, I have fog lights, and we had been told to get those. Go to Lowe's or Home Depot and get what they're called booger lights. I don't know if they're motion censored or not. We still haven't put up any extra lights. We put bulbs in these. We try to keep our fog lights. It's two big fog lights on two big bulbs on each corner of the house, which those are pretty bright, but they're still not as bright as what we need. We need to light it up like a football field out here.
Right.
Really need to do.
Well, I'll be sending you some information, things that'll keep them where they are.
Okay, and can I give you my address real quick?
Yeah, give me just a second. Thanks, everyone, for joining me this week. Be sure to tune in again next week as we explore another account from a witness of the unknown.